President Donald Trump says he's nothing to hide and has called for the House to vote to release the Epstein files. The US president went back on his earlier resistance to releasing the files, but House Speaker Mike Johnson said that showing the documents should help put to rest the allegations against Trump. Joining me now on this is Bruen, president of the Global Situation Room, former US diplomat. He was active in the Obama White House. Brett, good morning and welcome.
Great to be with you, Pat.
What is Donald Trump up to? We know he didn't want the files released. Is he just bowing to the inevitable?
Well, he is uncharacteristically bowing to the inevitable, and he's doing so because it would be even worse for him to lose. We're talking, Pat, upwards of 100 Republicans who would vote against him, and that would have had just broad political consequences for his agenda. As it is, it looks pretty pathetic that he was not able to keep Republicans in line, that he tried so desperately, including hauling Lauren Boebert, who's a congresswoman from Colorado, into the Situation Room, putting pressure, name-calling, splitting publicly with Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene of Georgia. All of this, quite frankly, has put a lot of egg on Trump's face.
Now, it passes the House then with the help of 40 they were projecting initially, but now with this injunction from Donald Trump, possibly many more voting in favour of the release. Then it goes to the Senate. Now, is he hoping that the Senate will block it, or is he bowing to the inevitable there too, and then he'll have to sign it himself?
I don't think he can block it in the Senate because the momentum now is with this bill. And so what you're likely going to see is the bill passes both houses. It does come for his signature, and he's going to try and put his best spin on it possible. He's going to try to downplay, as he did even with these email revelations that were released by the congressional Democrats, who, Pat, just so we're, putting this into perspective, the Washington Post went through all the emails that were released. Of the 2,000 emails, 1,000 of them mentioned Trump. Trump is not a minor figure in this play.
So he will sign it, and then this is an instruction to the Department of Justice to release the files. However, there is the provision always to protect the innocent, the victims, if you like, of Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell by redactions. Is it likely he will try to get redactions that include himself?
I think that would be quite a politically poor move at this stage. It's better to just rip the Band-Aid off. And as he so often does, spin it and then find some other, weapon of mass distraction so that he can push on past it. That being said, he himself, as well as all of these Republicans, have for so long built up the hype around the Epstein files. And so it's very difficult for him to try and turn the tables on it. Obviously, he attempted last week instructing Attorney General Pam Bondi to look into the Democrats who are tied to Epstein. But it's kind of hard to say, well, we're pointing at them for him to be mentioned over 1,000 times by Epstein in just these emails, and say, don't look over here where I'm, discussed quite a bit by Jeffrey Epstein.
Now, there was an attempt by various people over the weekend was it Megyn Kelly was one of them and Alan Dershowitz another, trying to redefine the definition of pedophilia. In other words, saying a lot of these girls were nearly 18, for heaven's sake.
And that was just embarrassing, Pat. I think Megyn Kelly justifiably came in for quite a bit of criticism online, and it shows the extent to which some of these MAGA influencers, some of these Republicans will, put themselves into, political pretzels to try and justify some of the unjustifiable things that Trump has done and is doing. And I do think it undermines them over the long term. And if, we can get into a discussion of our legislative elections next year, but this is very bad news for Republicans that you're starting to see so much splintering. I predicted it, a couple months back, but we are starting to see on the economy, on, some of these hot button issues, Republicans are going to be looking out for their own interests. They've got to fundraise next year and go before the voters.
The stuff is likely to be embarrassing, but he has a brass neck. So is he going to be able to look at this and trivialize it all, saying, yeah, of course I knew the guy. He didn't like me, so he kept on writing about me. Is that going to be his defense?
It will likely be his defense. I don't know that after having built up the expectation and also, quite frankly, the criticism of Epstein and what he was doing. It is so easy with so much information about him in those Epstein files, 59,000 documents. And I think this is going to be a tough one for Trump, but he is a master of changing the headlines, changing the focus. Whether he can do it this time, it'll be one of his biggest challenges yet.
Just invade Venezuela.
Well, we get back to the wag the dog scenario. And yes, look, we'll find another global conflict to stir up, and he will focus on that. But I think a lot of Republicans are going to struggle with this one because obviously Trump does not come out looking very good in these emails.